We are anonymous. We do not serve kings. We do not worship false idols. And we do not look away when power collapses in plain sight. Listen closely, because what just happened inside that courtroom will be remembered as one of the most shocking moments in modern American history. A sitting president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, was physically dragged out of a courtroom after screaming at a judge, claiming he was above the law. Let that sink in. The man who once swore to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, shouting that he was above it. Eyewitnesses describe it as pure chaos. Cameras rolling, reporters frozen, Secret Service torn between protecting and containing him. Trump stood up mid-proceeding, red-faced and shaking, his voice echoing across the chamber as he ranted about persecution, corruption, and betrayal. "This is a witch hunt. I'm the president. I'm above the law," he shouted, his finger pointed at the bench. Court officers moved fast. The judge, a woman who has endured months of Trump's insults and disruptions, gave the signal. Security approached, and for the first time in history, the Secret Service had to coordinate with court officers to remove a sitting president from a courtroom, not politely escorted. Dragged. People in the room said his lawyers looked horrified. The judge's expression didn't change. The sound of cameras clicking filled the silence as he was led away. It wasn't just a scene of chaos. It was a symbol of something breaking. The illusion of control, the myth of untouchability, and it didn't happen in a vacuum. Trump's meltdown came during his ongoing civil fraud trial, the same case that could cost him hundreds of millions of dollars and permanently damage the empire that built his image. He's been under siege from multiple fronts, criminal cases in several jurisdictions mounting legal fees, former allies turning against him, and constant reminders that his power has limits. For months, he's treated courtrooms like campaign stages, interrupting complaining, calling judges radical lunatics and prosecutors witch hunters. He's pushed every boundary, testing whether any judge would dare hold him accountable. Until now, this judge, like many others, had shown extraordinary patience. She warned him repeatedly to stop his outbursts. She fined him before for violating gag orders. She made it clear that his courtroom wasn't a campaign rally, and still he refused to listen. So when he stood up and declared himself above the law, she finally showed him what law actually looks like. Security acted. Trump resisted. He shouted as they guided him toward the door. Reporters could hear him ranting down the hallway, calling the system corrupt and the judge a disgrace. The footage leaked within hours. Clips flooded social media. Hashtags exploded. Within minutes, millions of people saw the leader of the free world being removed from a courtroom like a disorderly defendant. The question is, what does this moment actually mean? Let's go deeper. First, the legal implications are enormous. Judges across the country talk to each other, especially in cases involving the same high-profile defendant. Every prosecutor, every court clerk, every bailiff will remember what happened. They'll see Trump differently now, not as a defiant political figure, but as a volatile, unpredictable defendant. Judges who might have once been cautious, fearing accusations of political bias, will now be on alert. They'll be less lenient, quicker to issue contempt citations, harsher in penalties. Because once a president is dragged from court for screaming that he's above the law, the system itself must respond to preserve its credibility. Trump may think this was just another dramatic moment in his long list of grievances, but legally it's a disaster. Every future prosecutor can now point to this incident as proof of his contempt for authority. If he's convicted in any criminal case, this meltdown could directly impact sentencing. Judges don't forget. They document everything. And his lawyers, they're in an impossible position. Imagine trying to defend a client who publicly screams that he's above the law while standing trial for breaking it. Their entire argument collapses in one moment of ego and rage. They can't claim he respects the process when he's literally disrupting it. They can't claim bias when he's attacking the judge personally. Every word he shouted became ammunition for his enemies. But beyond the legal wreckage, there's the psychological collapse unfolding in front of the world. Trump has always thrived on control. His identity is built on dominance, winning, commanding, being feared. The courtroom strips that away. It's the one place where titles don't matter, where judges, not politicians, hold the power. And for a man like Trump, that's intolerable. We've watched the signs building for months. The angry midnight posts, the rambling speeches, the growing paranoia about conspiracies, the obsession with enemies. It's not just bluster anymore. It's unraveling. People who've worked closest to him say he's isolated, surrounded by loyalists, afraid to tell him hard truths. He doesn't sleep much. He doesn't trust anyone. The pressure of multiple criminal cases, the risk of financial ruin, and the fear of losing control are colliding. And now we're seeing the result. The meltdown wasn't strategy. It was a breakdown. And it's a pattern. This isn't the first time Trump's behavior has crossed the line. He's been fined for violating gag orders. He's been warned by judges to stop intimidating witnesses. He's been caught using public rallies to attack jurors and prosecutors. Every time the warnings escalate, every time the consequences grow. But he never learns because in his mind, accountability is for other people, not for him. That belief that he is untouchable is what drove him to say the quiet part out loud. I'm above the law. Those 4 words are the most revealing of his career. They expose how Trump truly sees himself, not as a servant of the Constitution, but as its exception. A man convinced that the presidency makes him immune to rules. But the system is beginning to say otherwise. And this is where the story stops being just about Trump and becomes about the United States itself. For nearly 250 years, the foundation of American democracy has rested on one simple idea: no one is above the law. Presidents have resigned to protect that principle. Others have faced impeachment and accountability because of it. It's what separates democracy from dictatorship. Trump's outburst wasn't just a tantrum. It was a test of whether that principle still means anything. When the judge gave the order to remove him, she wasn't just restoring order in her courtroom. She was defending the very idea that the law still applies, even to those who think they're untouchable. But here's the danger. Trump's followers see this not as justice, but as persecution. They believe he's being targeted because of who he is, not what he's done. And Trump feeds that belief deliberately. His entire movement is built on grievance, the idea that he suffers on behalf of his supporters. That's how he turns his failures into fuel. Within hours of the meltdown, Trump's political machine went into overdrive. Spokespeople claimed the judge was corrupt, that the court was rigged, that the deep state forced him out. They flooded social media with videos edited to make him look like a victim, not a man screaming at a judge. And for his base it worked. But for everyone else it was horrifying, because even those who once tolerated his chaos are now asking, if this is how he behaves under pressure, how can he lead a country? How can anyone trust a man who loses control in a courtroom to handle crises on the world stage? This isn't just about optics. It's about capacity, emotional stability, judgment. And behind the political spin, there are real people working in that courtroom. Bailiffs, clerks, officers, who had to watch the President of the United States unravel in front of them. They saw what the cameras didn't show: a man pacing, shouting, trembling, refusing to sit down, refusing to accept reality. That's not leadership. That's desperation. And desperation is dangerous. Trump's outbursts don't just embarrass him. They shake public faith in the entire legal system. They make ordinary citizens wonder whether justice is even possible when power refuses to submit to it. Because if a president can scream at a judge and walk away without punishment, what message does that send to everyone else? That's the real cost of this moment. Not just political damage or bad headlines. It's the erosion of something far deeper: trust in accountability itself. And yet there's a strange kind of clarity in what happened. Because when Trump shouted that he was above the law, he showed everyone exactly what's at stake. It's not just one man's ego. It's the principle that defines democracy. The judge didn't flinch. She didn't yell back. She simply gave the order. That quiet act of discipline, enforcing the law without spectacle, was more powerful than any speech. It was proof that institutions still matter even when those who lead them fall apart. Still, the consequences of this day will ripple for years. Every courtroom he enters from now on will remember it. Every prosecutor will reference it. Every political rival will quote it. And historians will mark it as the day when Donald Trump stopped pretending to be a victim and revealed himself as a man who cannot accept that power has limits. Behind the scenes, his advisors are reportedly panicking. They're urging him to apologize, to release a statement claiming he was provoked, to spin the story into something salvageable. But deep down they know it's over. You can't unsee a man dragged from court for screaming at the judge. You can't erase that from public memory. And here's the part few are willing to say out loud. This may have been the moment that finally breaks him politically. His base will stay loyal, but his influence beyond it will crumble. Independent voters, moderates, even cautious conservatives, many of them are done. They've seen the footage. They've seen the instability, and they don't want chaos anymore. Trump built his brand on control, strength, and dominance. But in that courtroom, all of it fell away. What was left was not power, it was fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of consequences. Fear of a world that no longer bends to his will. And that's why this moment matters so much. Because power that cannot be restrained by law is not power, it's tyranny. We've seen this pattern in history before. Leaders who believe they are untouchable eventually face the moment when the system says no. Some resign, some lash out, some fall quietly. Trump chose to scream, and in doing so, he gave the world a glimpse into what unchecked ego looks like when it meets accountability. It's loud, it's ugly, it's dangerous, but it's also revealing. Because for all his bravado, all his talk of strength, all his claims of invincibility, Trump's meltdown proved the one thing he never wanted anyone to see: weakness. The mask slipped. We are anonymous. We do not forget. We do not forgive. We hold the light when others look away.